Hello, hello. Today I will be starting a new series of recaps on this channel covering the 2025 Maia Open, which concluded not that long ago at the end of August. So I've had a bit of time since the tournament to kind of refresh and recover, and now it's a great time to share the games. So I'll do my best not to spoil the result of how I did, but if you are curious or you'd like to look it up, of course you can search for the event on chess.com. I'll leave a link down below and you can see all my games and results if you would like to know ahead of time. But I know a lot of people don't like spoilers for the recap, so I'll try to keep these as much as I can spoiler free. So 2025 Maia Open, actually a fantastic tournament. I played in 2024 as well, and I did reasonably okay in that one. I ended up losing like a few points, but there were some good games and some bad games. So of course this time around, I definitely wanted to do better. Going into the event, you know, I had about like 2 months of training or so since my last like official over the board game. So definitely been doing a lot of training, not a ton of like playing, but I was trying to train a lot, spar, play some local like blitz and rapid, and get myself as ready as I could for this tournament. Because the tournament was actually a reasonably strong number of high-rated players, 2,600, 2,500 grandmasters, number of like legends too. Like some of the top guys there were Grandmaster Mikhail Gurevich, who used to be like top 5 in the world candidate. Kevin Spraggett was there also candidate, Ilya Smirin. So like lots and lots of like really strong GMs. So I was hoping, of course, that I could possibly get paired against one of them. So the tournament was held in Maia Porto, which of course is in Portugal, and this is the only tournament I've ever played in Portugal, but it was a fantastic experience, really nice conditions, nice playing environment. They let me stream all the games. They were very nice to all the streamers there. Yeah, overall just a very enjoyable tournament. There was a lot of like social events, social activities, so it wasn't just about the chess. The chess was a fantastic, like classical chess, you know, great conditions for that. But then there was also like fun social events outside of that, which, you know, are obviously good for the psyche. And it's not always just about playing chess. But without any further ado, let's get into game one. So in round one, as typical for open events, I was paired down. And for the first game, I was playing white against WIM from Switzerland, Camille Seroux. And yeah, going into, I think I had a bit of time to prepare, but not much. So I ended up playing d4, which of course I've mostly played throughout my chess career. Time control for this game is 90 plus 30 with 30 minutes added at move 40. So there's 30-second increment throughout the game, and then you get an additional 30 minutes at move 40. It was 1 round per day throughout the tournament, so I definitely appreciate that we had like a bit of a classical longer time control with the 1 game per day. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6. I play like classic Queen's Gambit style here. Knight f3, not allowing Nimzo Indian. Black played bishop e4 check, so the Bogo Indian. And I wasn't really ready to face this one. I hadn't reviewed it before the game, but I decided to play knight d2, which these days, or at least, I don't know about these days. In the past, this was considered the most ambitious approach towards bishop b4 check. Bishop d2 is like the solid move where I can play for a small edge, but knight d2, generally white is trying to either grab the bishop pair with a3 or get a full center with e4. And so this I've always felt is like the most critical try for advantage. Here black has a lot of moves, like castles I think is the main line, d5, b6. But in the game, black played c5, which is also playable. But it's been many years since I looked at this. So all I knew basically is you should challenge the bishop, ask if it wants to trade. Bishop a5, you know, I can probably take on c5. So bishop takes d2 is very logical. And here I just play bishop takes d2. Sometimes people take with the queen and then put the bishop on the long diagonal, but I wasn't sure if this is a moment where it's appropriate. So I just felt like, you know, bishop takes just looks more natural. Here black goes b6. So yeah, I didn't really know about the theory on this line. All I knew is that white is supposed to be a little bit better. I have the bishop pair, and we haven't damaged the structure like in the Nimzo Indian. So it should be a safe advantage for white if we kind of get our pieces out. And here, after a bit of thought, I played bishop f4. Looks like I spent roughly 6 minutes on this move. Just kind of looking around to see what my options are. White could also play e3, maybe g3. I wasn't really sure. I think all these options are playable. With e3, eventually black could come in knight e4 and get the bishop pair back. And then maybe white's still slightly better there with the space advantage. But yeah, to me, it felt like if I allow that, then I might be in risk of losing everything I have. So I decided to play bishop f4, just kind of keeping the bishop on a good diagonal before I play e3. So bishop b7, e3, knight c6. The other idea behind bishop f4 was that I was kind of eyeing the d6 square. So if black were to castle here, they would really have to be concerned after e3, let's say, castles that I'm taking and going bishop d6 and possibly just snagging a pawn. Now maybe this is a risky pawn for white to grab super early on. There could be like knight e4 and queen a5 check, but it is something black has to think about. And also this bishop on d6 is annoying even if I don't take on c5. So if black were to castle, I would definitely think about dc and bishop d6. I'm not sure if I would 100% go for it, but to me it looked at least tempting. So black plays knight c6, kind of delaying the decision a bit. And here I decided it's a good time to take. Now after knight c6, I was a little worried that black maybe will be in time to take on d4 and then play d5 and kind of get a nice grip in the center. So I thought I want to clarify the structure. So take, and now bishop d6 I thought was early because of knight e4. And I felt like black, can just immediately grab the bishop, challenge me with queen e7, and I don't really see why white should have anything here. So instead I go bishop e2 and just kind of keep the threat alive. Like the threat is kind of stronger than the execution here. Because now if black castles, then of course I'm playing this with tempo, rook e8, and then I can probably take the pawn and knight e4, maybe go back like bishop d6. And here white seems to be pawn up. If queen a5 check, there's b4, and so I'm going to castle next move, and no obvious compensation for black. So knight e7 gets played after some thought, like 8 minutes. So at this point I'm feeling good. I've got like a time advantage, and I didn't think knight e7, like with the idea to like castle, eventually go knight g6, and I didn't really feel like this is what black should be doing in the position. To me, it felt like once white mobilizes and develops, I should be very comfortably better, especially if I can just get a queen and rook on the d file and put a lot of pressure on d7. Eventually maybe provoke black into pushing d5, then I can take and then play against the structure there, maybe like some hanging pawns or an isolated pawn. Anyways, castles. And here I started with queen c2 after a bit of thought, 7 minutes. Not sure what other moves I was considering here. I think I might have considered b4, which I believe now is a reasonable move, but in the game, I rejected this one mainly because I just didn't want to trade off black's weakness on d6. I just want always for black to have to worry about this bishop d6 idea, which I felt like is annoying. But b4 strategically does seem like a good move because if black takes and we have ab, then of course the rook is pretty nice on the a file, and I can get some space with b5 or c5. So I definitely think white is better here, but I pretty much just wanted to keep my options flexible, so queen c2. And if black were to get this tempo, then probably I'd put the queen on d2 now that black can't get the knight to e4, right? And I think it's the knight that actually wants to be on e4 here for black, so I would be happy to give this move up and then rook d1 next, and then eventually black is going to have to move the bishop back anyway. So instead knight e4 played, and now I go knight d2 and f5. And this is like pretty typical play for black in these systems like Bogo Indian, Nimzo, Queen's Indian, just this structure where black controls the e4 square, bishop on the long diagonal, f5, sometimes there's like rook lift, sometimes there's queen e8, queen g6, and so this can be actually quite active on the king side if white isn't careful. After some thought, I decided to just take on e4. It looks like another 7 minutes. And my idea here was that if black takes with the bishop, then I'm going back queen d2. Again, I want rook d1 hitting d7, and I also have f3. So if like knight c6, for whatever reason, f3 just kind of traps the bishop. So I'm kind of messing with black's coordination here after queen d2. And if bishop c6, then I have bishop d6. And the pawn on c5 is kind of hard to defend because there's no rook c8. The bishop is in the way. So that's kind of what I was intending. Black took with the pawn, which I think is probably better, but now rook f d1. And basically I was a little bit nervous about the f file, but I evaluated that black probably wasn't getting on it anytime soon. Like I can always park my bishop on g3 if absolutely needed. So if like knight g6, if I get hit, the bishop can come back to g3 and then f2 is defended. And if black is putting the knight on f5, well then I'm not really worried about the f file so much. I can leave my bishop on f4. So I kind of, allowed black to open the f file, but I didn't think it was such a big deal. Black's bishop is also closed off now, and so, I feel like there's some advantages for white. And now my plan is to just try to like double on the d file and put pressure on this one, look for bishop d6 somewhere. Maybe could have even started with bishop d6, but then I was expecting rook f5, I think, and I didn't quite quite see the follow-up from here, but of course white is a lot better, and yeah, I should have a number of moves there. But I started with rook fd1, just seemed like more logical, and now rook c8. So this is where the game gets very interesting. So rook c8, my opponent spent 9 minutes on this one. And at this point, like, she's already in time trouble with 36 minutes left. It's move 15, so 25 moves to go. Only 36 minutes on the clock. And for the most part, we just play this like kind of quiet opening. Like, middle game is only really just beginning, right? So the game is, of course, only going to get sharper. And yeah, now she spent 9 minutes and plays rook c8. And I could feel that, like, or at least my impression was that black wasn't comfortable in this position, because like bishop d6 is a problem. You know, if you play knight c6 and again bishop d6 and white's just piling on, like rook f5, bishop g4, you know, this rook is getting chased down. So to me, it really felt like white's position is really nice. I have the bishop pair and the better structure, right? Like black has more weaknesses. So rook c8 gets played, and, you know, my first instinct was probably like rook d2 or something. But then I noticed like queen a4 is a double attack. And I didn't spot this at first, but then I saw it and I was like, oh, well, black might have blundered this too, because the rook had just come from a8. And so pawn on a7, like sometimes you forget when the piece moves that something is now going to be undefended. And so after queen a4, I'm hitting a7, I'm hitting d7. And I didn't really see actually how black is going to deal with this, because if queen a4, knight c6, then I have bishop d6 again, which is just unpleasant. Or I can even start with bishop g4. I think I was thinking in the game, threatening this and this, which seems, yeah, very, very difficult for black. So I thought maybe my opponent overlooked queen a4, or at least, you know, thought like they have knight c6 if needed, and at least the pawns are defended for the most part, but it still looked like a good move. So I played queen a4, and then my opponent spent a few more minutes and played bishop c6. And so at this point, I already calculated that, like, on bishop c6, I'm going queen takes a7. Like, I kind of made up my mind. Now, I think I spent a little bit more. I spent another 3 minutes double checking, because whenever you grab a pawn on a7, like, you want to make sure that your queen is not going to get trapped, some rook a8, something, right? So on queen a4, I already spent 7 minutes, like, looking at bishop, because bishop c6 is kind of the most challenging move. It's like hitting the queen with tempo. It's saying go ahead and take on a7. If you do, there's going to be problems for you there. So go ahead and do it. So this was really like the main move I was focusing on. I wasn't worried about knight c6 or anything else, because there I'm still in control. Bishop c6 though, if I don't take the pawn on a7, then I shouldn't play queen a4, right? So then bishop c6 happens. I spent another 3 minutes kind of like double checking my calculations. And yeah, I just didn't see how I get in trouble there. I thought, okay, I think the best try I could make for black was that black could play like rook f4, ef4, and then like go after the king side, like queen f8. And I calculated here a little bit, but like it just, you know, it wasn't working for black. White's taking on c5, getting the queen back. It's just not enough counterplay. It's not in time. So, okay, not seeing like what exactly the opponent is going to do, I took on a7. And when I took on a7, then I realized immediately what was about to happen. So black does take on f4, ef4, and now d6. Very cold-blooded move. And the point is that the queen is actually stuck on a7. So this is where my brain kind of glitched, because like in my mind, I thought on any kind of quiet move, I have a tempo and I should get out, right? But I can't use the tempo to do anything useful. Right, queen a4 is covered to get out, queen a5 is covered, so all the squares to get out are covered. Queen a6 is free, but queen a6 doesn't actually go anywhere, so rook a8, I'm still trapped. So this is what I just didn't like fully appreciate, obviously, when I played queen a4, is that my queen is stuck, and I don't have moves. I don't have an idea here. Now, okay, at this point I started scrambling, although I think my opponent spent. Yeah, she spent another 4 minutes on rook takes f4. So while she was doing that, I'd already realized like that I'd messed up, that I missed this d6, because I could tell that she saw something, that she didn't think she's just like a pawn down, right, for nothing. So I realized like, so for sure I knew like she's gonna see rook f4. I thought she already saw it basically, and now she's just double checking, and so I started scrambling like what am I gonna do? So mainly, first thing I probably looked at was bishop g4 because like comes with tempo, but then rook a8, I take on e6, black moves, and I don't have rook takes d6 because queen just recaptures and everything stays defended. So my queen is still trapped, right? So big problems. Like if bishop g4 is not working, then what are you going to do? So I looked at b4 as well, like rook a8, let's say take. So at this point I'm looking at queen sacrifices because I'm like, I don't know how the queen is getting out. Maybe I can get some material for it. B takes c5. Because black did sacrifice an exchange already, right? So black has committed some material. They're giving up at least a rook for the queen. So at least I can try to get some material for the queen and make it playable. But here it's like I have 2 rooks for queen and knight. So that's not good. And I was thinking black could play like d5. And yeah, my pawns aren't going anywhere. And eventually my king is going to be in big trouble because the queen is just going to outplay here. So that wasn't convincing. Eventually, I found kind of the only way white can really get out and make a fight of this game. And at this point, by the way, like my mindset is like completely spoiled. I'm like, oh, wow. Like already round 1, it's over. like I thought I was playing a nice game, and I've already blown it in my mind for this tournament. Because something psychological, like the first time you blunder in an event, it really messes with your confidence because you feel like, well, you're just not in good form. And of course, this is something that like I've specifically been trying to work on, is like recognizing the opponent's resources, spotting the opponent's ideas. And so this was just a big failure on my end. So, okay, finally, I by this point I already figured out what I need to do, and I went rook takes d6 relatively quickly. I only spent 30 seconds on this move because in the 4 minutes my opponent was thinking, and I already decided like I'm going rook takes d6 because I realized it's the only chance, so might as well play it fast. What's the idea? Queen takes d6, rook d1. Now if the queen doesn't go back, takes here, then I have queen takes e7, and I'm up a pawn. Maybe black has some activity here with like e3, but I'm hitting queen takes e6 with check. So this is a big problem for black. Basically, I feel like black isn't, I'm good here. I'm up a pawn and I have enough counterplay. So main issue is, of course, queen c7, where black is now up a piece, right? Because black gave the exchange, and then I've sacrificed a full rook to break my queen out with rook takes d6. So now currently black is up a piece. But after queen takes c5 here, I actually have managed to collect 3 pawns for that piece. So pawn on a7, pawn on d6, pawn on c5. So when I realized I could get this position, so 3 pawns for the knight, then I calmed down a little bit because I was like, okay, I didn't like this position. I thought black is still better. But at least I'm in the game. Like I'm not down a queen. I'm not resigning. Like I have 3 pawns on the queen side connected, so this could easily go wrong for black. Like if one wrong move basically could change everything. And main thing I was looking at was bishop a4, where I was trying to bishop a4 I thought is a very tempting move because it hits the queen and hits the rook, essentially forces me to trade queens. And I was trying to figure out this endgame. I think my intention was to give check and play b4 here, trying to just get the pawns rolling. But okay, I checked this position. I mean, I checked the game with the engine, and it shows bishop b3, c5, rook a7. I mean, I stopped calculating after b4, but this would have been very good for black because black is already picking up 1 pawn. There's counterplay against my king, and the knight is kind of well placed to slow down. It's still tricky. Like black would still have to show really, I think, precise technique here, and time scramble coming up, but this could have been really bad. This could have been really bad for me. I think instead of rook d8 check, it's better for me to go rook d4. But in my mind, I was pretty intent on just giving check, pushing b4, right? Just getting the pawns going. But maybe rook d4 is better, kind of keeping everything defended for now, eyeing this one, and then maybe trying to bring the king in before pushing the pawns too quickly. So that would have been maybe better technique. As it happened, black played rook d8, offering a rook trade. And intuitively, this didn't feel right to me because generally against passed pawns, you want to keep heavy pieces on the board. So the more heavy pieces black has, the better chances they have at getting counterplay against my king. You can imagine if the queen and rook are super active on white's second rank, then they can be active and fight against the pawns at the same time from behind. If we trade all the heavy pieces off, then I think I would definitely take white. Like 3 pawns for the knight, 3 connected passers for the knight. Sometimes 2 connected is enough against the knight. 3 though is like definitely enough, especially if my king starts running in. So I would gladly trade off all the heavy pieces here if I could. So rook d8 definitely felt like it's helping white. So I took queen takes, I go h3. Now I'm basically, worried about queen d2 stuff and counterplay against the king. So h3, I'm kind of just trying to secure. Queen d7. And now I go b4. And at this point, I actually started feeling very confident about my chances because the opponent only has like less than 10 minutes, 7 minutes now. It's move 24, 16 moves to go. Very sharp position. Very sharp endgame. Piece against pawns, always difficult because if black gives white time, white just wins easily. And my moves are very easy to find. b5, a4, it's like very easy to find white's moves. You just push the pawns. Black, though, has some difficult decisions to make because they have to figure out how to get in with queen to d2 without hanging everything, right? If queen d2 here, I don't remember exactly my intention during the game, but I can either take this one or consider queen e3 also. Queen e3 is a very safe choice because, again, I'm more than happy to enter this endgame where my king gets in and my pawns are just rolling, right? So I think in the game I was going to decide between like stabilizing queen e3 or more aggressive queen takes e7. Here queen takes e7 looks good, right? Like if queen takes e2, I take with check and take the bishop, right? Queen endgame with a bunch of extra pawns. So I don't quite see black's counterplay here. If check, I go bishop f1, and e3 is always met with this one, and queen takes e6 and queen takes e3. So that's kind of black's issue, is that they have to find the right moment to try and get in with the queen, but this is like, it takes precise calculation. So knight g6 played, hitting the f-pawn. I think good move, because the knight now is not hanging as well. I went g3. Not the move I want to make, because it weakens the diagonal, but I wasn't sure what else to do. Maybe I could have pushed b5 first. I'm not sure. I think that's what the computer was saying here, like just go b5 and then bishop f1, just give the pawn, and then engine saying like white's better, like a4, just give that pawn, just start pushing the queen side. This was beyond me, so I went g3, bishop b7, b5, and now comes e5. So black at this point is 3 minutes on the clock. So time pressure at this point was a big factor in this game. I have 10 minutes, which is not a lot of time, but it's comparatively more than 3, right? So I feel like I'm still the one that's in control here. Now e5 came, so very sharp move, looking for queen takes h3, e3, and in mating ideas. Basically, this is what black needs to do, but doesn't have enough time to fully work this out. I played bishop g4. This move just fell right, hitting the queen with tempo. Now the queen comes in, queen to d2. And this I felt like was, of course, a critical moment because now I can choose a lot of directions. Like I have queen c7, for example, to go active, or I have queen e3 to try and stabilize. And I quickly realized that queen e3 is a safe move because, again, if takes, the endgame is very, very nice for white. And otherwise, I'm controlling the e-pawn, so there's no breaks, and I'm controlling all the checks too. So there's no tempo followed by like ef4 either, and then knight h4 and things like that. So this I felt like I can at least maintain control if needed, but I did want to try and win the game, like if I could, right? Because queen c7 doesn't just threaten the bishop, it also threatens like queen b8 check, and then either taking the bishop with check, or in case of knight f8, bishop e6 check, king h8, queen takes knight is checkmate, right? So queen c7 could be a game-winning move because I'm threatening the bishop and I'm also threatening some back rank stuff, and the bishop doesn't have a lot of squares. But of course I realized on queen c7, black has queen e1 check. And if king g2, e3. I take the bishop, black takes here, and I think I essentially stopped calculating at this point because it's just like too sharp. Like black has a lot of checks. Of course, maybe I can come back with like queen g2 here, but black also has e2. And yeah, so this just looked extremely messy. Now, I don't think black can push e2 right away, right? Because white has bishop e6 check. And then if king here, it's queen f7 mate. And if king over, then of course this is mate. But maybe instead of e2, maybe black goes h5. And then I'm not mating after check king h7, and the e-pawn is really, really dangerous here. So this is the kind of thing that I didn't want to get into without 100% knowing, right, that I'm winning. And I only had 8 minutes, so I couldn't really figure this out. So instead, I went for a different option, and I went for queen a7. And I don't know if this was the right choice, because I think queen e3, again, would have been safe. So queen a7 is my choice. So my point here is that I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to play queen b8 check and take the bishop, but I'm defending f2. So now after queen e1 check, king h2, which was played, of course this is covered. And so e3 doesn't come with check, and so that is all the difference in the world. Now this is what happened in the game. Black played e3. And basically it was over because now I get queen b8 check, which is a very important move. Either, again, taking the bishop with check, or on knight f8, bishop e6 is mate. So king f7 play, because okay, king f7 you have to go, otherwise you're getting mated. Take with check, knight e7. But now because everything happened with check, I'm in time, right, to just deal with the pawn. So just f takes e3. And now queen can come back to g2 whenever needed, and white's just too many pawns up here. I got the piece back and game over, basically. So game finished after queen takes, queen f3. Black made a couple more checks here. Queen c3, take this one, takes. I saw I can trade queens with queen f3 check and decided to do that immediately. And yeah, and now it's just over. The queens come off and white's just 3 pawns up. And so black resigned. So I felt good about this one, but of course, instead of e3, I discovered black could have played h5 in this line too. And I think I somewhat had this on my radar during the game because black fixes their back rank issues with tempo. And here, I'm not sure if I have anything better than giving check, king h7, and then going back, queen e3. I don't remember my intention during the game on h5 because it was, things were stressful. but this is what I would have to do. I'd have to give check, and I have to realize that I got to come back and try to stabilize again with this important queen e3 move. Because otherwise, of course, I can't take on b7 without just allowing a perpetual. So here, okay, the game certainly would continue, and yeah, who knows what, we'd have to make 10 more moves before the time control. So things would be pretty chaotic. But as it happened, black essentially ran out of time, plays e3 like on their last seconds, but queen b8, and then yeah, this was enough for white to convert. So I ended up winning the game. I was happy to win in the end because I felt like I was very resilient because when my queen got trapped after queen a7, rook takes f4, I was definitely like, oh my god, like my tournament is over. Just like round one with white losing, like just brutal. So I was happy. I felt lucky actually that I had a way out here with rook takes d6. And then I was happy that I managed to kind of collect myself and play the rest of the game. I felt I played the rest of the game in a rather practical fashion. This position here, not easy for either side to handle, but I was able to squeeze out a win. So thanks for watching the recap. As always, all the likes, comments, and follows, subs are appreciated. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care.